you will see some coolers. Grab a water. It's hot out, it's delightful out. Enjoy this wonderful day, and we'll get started shortly. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Tara Thompson-Cusack, President and CEO of the Troy Chamber of Commerce, and I am ecstatic to welcome you all to the City of Troy State of the City Address. I am wearing sunglasses because it is very difficult to see in the sun, so I apologize in advance. But please feel free to take pictures, and if you'd like to share it on social media, make sure to use the hashtag Troy, SOTC, 2021, so State of the City, just in case you weren't sure. It's great to see so many faces in the audience today. And I'd like to thank our Troy Chamber members, our board of directors who are in attendance, and also our staff who are here today and who are also watching from home virtually. I also see several healthcare heroes in the audience. Troy Chamber members from Beaumont and Children's Hospital. I first and foremost wanted to say thank you for stepping up during this very difficult year, and we are so grateful to have you here with us today. I forgot about this pause for clapping thing, so thank you. It's hard to believe that just 60 years ago, there were less than 100 businesses in Troy. And now we are the largest city in Oakland County and home to thousands of thriving businesses. The mission and vision of the Troy Chamber of Commerce has remained consistent to create access and growth for businesses in any economy. So, in layman's terms, we are in the business of connection. We connect our businesses to growth, educational resources to help them succeed, and even tools to help them expand their reach. While that all sounds exciting, 2020 painted a slightly more complicated landscape. Business as usual felt like, well, a thing of the past. We had to change, we had to persevere, and we had to move forward. But most importantly, we had to work together. And the City of Troy was there for us in all of our businesses. I think it's why the Troy Chamber is so grateful that we have such an amazing partner with the City of Troy. I can wholeheartedly say that there is no place I would rather be, and with no team I'd rather work with. Our partnership was critical in assisting so many businesses in the community. It is an honor to work alongside Mayor Ethan Baker, City Council, who is here with us today, and all of the City of Troy employees who work tirelessly to serve our business community. They truly care about the well-being of the residents and understand the importance of supporting local business. The City of Troy even won the Troy Chamber Business Excellence Award for customer service by a public vote. I say that slowly because I'm pretty positive there has never been a government office to ever win a customer service award. So I do say that that speaks absolute volumes of the community that we are in. Over the past year, we have spent countless hours working alongside the City of Troy team, doing our best to help local businesses. While it had obstacles placed in front of us, we didn't pause. None of us did. We hosted our very first virtual ribbon cutting to make sure we could still celebrate the successes of businesses opening up in Troy. Now, mind you, this was unconventional, but we did it live, we did it virtually, and had over 1,300 views. Now, why that may seem a little bit simple, 1,300 views is a possible 1,300 new customers for this new business. The Troy also hosted over 100 virtual events for our members, from educational programming around PPP funding to how to make your company go virtual, and even Mondays with the Mayor, where Mayor Baker would keep our business members up to date on any new happenings in the city, listen to their feedback, and answer any questions that they may have. Glenn Lapin, the city's economic development specialist, and the Troy Chamber's vice president, Sheila Dunstead, spent countless hours reaching out to restaurants to help them receive relief funding, bringing thousands of dollars to the industries that were hurt the hardest. In addition, we teamed up with Oakland County to help get immediate grant funding to local businesses in Troy, keeping not only their employees safe, but keeping their doors open. Community Affairs Director Cindy Stewart never stopped her pursuit in engaging the community, whether it was working with new businesses to help highlight all of their wonderful achievements, or being diligent in enhancing the farmers market for the community. She continuously showed the dedication she had for this community. And if I ever had a question, which I had plenty of last year, all I needed to do was reach out to City Manager Mark Miller, who was just a phone call away. As we were able to get back to the in-person ribbon cuttings, I was so excited because I was able to see again all the smiling faces from City Council who were there to celebrate another new business opening its doors in Troy and be a part of that community that we all hold so dear to us. As you can see, collaboration was key to our success. I could go on for days, and believe me, I'm a rattler, so I really could. But I just want to express all the examples on how the city helped our businesses. And instead of rattling on, I just want to say thank you. So Mayor Baker, I thank you for your continued support of the Troy Chamber and the businesses we serve. I thank you for your guidance and dedication to the city of Troy and all of its residents. I thank you for the hours, and I do mean hours, of phone calls, of trying to find new ways to better serve our businesses. And most importantly, I thank you for your friendship over the past 2 very insanely complicated years. It's an absolute honor for us to work with you, City Council, and the entire City of Troy team of employees. You all prove time and time again your commitment to the City of Troy, and we at the Troy Chamber of Commerce are grateful to work with such an impactful team of leaders. So without further ado, now it is my great privilege that I introduce the Honorable Mayor, Ethan Baker.
Thank you, Tara, and thank you all for being here. This is really exciting to see so many people in person. First of all, I know a few of you probably haven't been around this many people yet, so I appreciate you braving this, coming out and braving this storm, I guess, to be here. But we've got beautiful weather, we've got some beautiful sunshine, and I'll be looking at it for the next little bit. So anyway, and Tara, thank you, truly. It's always a little scary to have you introduce me. How can I possibly live up to your energy level? Sometimes at ribbon cuttings, it's like going from a triple espresso to a decaf coffee. And in our case, that's actually true. I'm a decaf drinker, so there we go. But your energy level is one of the many key reasons why the Troy Chamber of Commerce is such a powerful force in our city and in the region as a whole. A little later, I'm going to speak about the City of Troy's relationship with the Troy Chamber, but here's a little bit of a spoiler alert. I'm thrilled with your leadership at the Chamber, Tara, and your truly fantastic team, all who I consider friends. So again, I'll talk a little bit more about the Chamber in a few minutes, but I just want to say again, I'm extremely excited to be here this evening bringing back the State of the City address to the City of Troy. There hasn't been a State of the City in this address in this city since 2015. When I was elected mayor, I knew right away that I wanted to bring the tradition back. Councilman Hamilton also talked about it a lot. I had intended to start last year, my first full year, but COVID had other plans. So bringing back this annual address is really important. It gives me the opportunity to directly speak to the residents and the businesses of Troy and to provide increased transparency something I have fought for over the past several years and something that our citizens and council truly demand. It is my honor to be here with you this evening to bring back this tradition in this brand new era. As we have not had a State of the City address in several years, I view tonight as a bit of an opportunity to introduce and reintroduce many people here this evening. Some will be introduced early on, and some will be a little bit throughout the address. So please, when it's time, join me in giving a warm welcome when introductions are made and to let these people know how much they really matter to our city. I'm going to start first off with Cindy Stewart. Hi, Cindy. I'm fairly certain Cindy needs no introduction, but please allow me to formally introduce Cindy and to thank her as our Community Affairs Director. She deserves a lot of the credit for tonight's production and who has relationships throughout our entire city with residents, businesses, nonprofits, city staff, and elected officials. If I need contact information for someone in the city, my first call, or probably a text, is always to Cindy. Google has nothing on her, let me tell you. And here's a fun fact. Most of the pictures you see on my social media accounts are Cindy Stewart originals, so thank you, Cindy, for that. But seriously, Cindy, thank you for everything you've done for tonight. Thank you for everything you continue to do for our city on a 24/7 basis, and for everything you do for me, even when we know you'd rather be out on your paddleboard on one of our beautiful lakes. So, thank you, Cindy. Listen, for those of you that know me well, you know it's pretty difficult for me to be up here tonight and not to make this a roast about my fellow council members. I love humor. I love laughing, especially with the six of you. But the truth is, as much as I'd love to try out my roast material, and I do have plenty, that probably wouldn't be the best use of this address. What may be hard for some to believe is that I truly enjoy working with each and every one of you, and I greatly value the relationships we all have that we've built together and continue to strengthen. We have served together in unprecedented times, and I'm certain none of us will ever forget this time period on Troy City Council. So let me first introduce our Troy City Council members. We'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Teresa Brooks, the good doctor, my neighbor, my friend, and somebody I know that thoroughly vets any and all decisions, really thinking through the consequences, intended and unintended, of her votes. Teresa, please say hello. You can stand. Go ahead. There you go. Councilmember Ellen Hoderick, who I jokingly and lovingly refer to as our senior member of council, who's just finishing up, not for what you think, Tara, she's just finishing up her 8th year on council, currently our longest serving member of this body. Ellen has proven time and time again to be the voice of reason in our community and really a true friend. Frankly, I could give a whole speech on Ellen Hoderick, but tonight I'm not going to do that, but she is worthy and really an important piece of our Troy City Council. So Ellen, please stand up and say hello. Councilmember Edna Abraham, my council sis. You may not recognize her. She's got long hair now. It's been a while. So for those of you that haven't seen her since before COVID, you probably thought someone else was here. Edna and I were elected together to Troy City Council in 2015 on the same day. And while we weren't initially as close as we probably should have been, we went through a lot early on in our council careers. We formed a very strong bond as a result. You know when Edna speaks at a council meeting, you're going to want to pay attention. So we are fortunate to have her continued leadership in our city, and I'm so thankful to have Edna as truly a voice of reason on council. Edna, please say hello. Councilmember David Hamilton. Well, my first real memory of David is him dressed as Alexander Hamilton, running in Troy's Fightful 5K in 2017. I had seen him speak at a League of Women Voters event here during the campaign, and I knew he was out knocking on doors. And I remember thinking, this guy's nuts, that costume. He's running in a costume, and he also must be pretty cool. Come to find out, I was right on both counts. Sorry, David. I told you I wasn't going to make this a roast, but one of my favorite things is ribbing you, and you do smile when I do, and you let me do it publicly, and I appreciate that. And frankly, it makes me smile. So we come at our roles often from different places, but I always know that we both have a shared love of this city. And the fact that I can kid you, even publicly, says a lot about who you are, and I greatly appreciate that. David, please stand up and say hello. Councilmember Ann Erickson Galt. So here's a secret. Ann and I probably should be the least likely to get along on this city council. We have the distinction of being the only two people on this council who have run in previous campaigns with partisan affiliations. And here's the breaking news. They were not the same party affiliation. And yet, I can stand here this evening and tell you that Ann and I work together for the good of our city, regardless of our partisan views and beliefs, and recognize the value of the relationship we can have, partisanship aside, and that is good for Troy and for us. Another secret? When I need a good laugh, I go to Ann Erickson Galt. She can laugh like nobody else. So Ann, please stand up and say hello. Councilmember Rebecca Chamberlain-Crayenga, who has the longest name of us all, and also the strangest journey on Troy City Council so far. She was appointed in February of last year after a council resignation. She participated in half of a normal meeting the night she was appointed. Her first full meeting was as COVID shutdowns were beginning, and we were spread out in council chambers. Then we went virtual. She had to run in an election in August of last year to retain her seat, and now faces an election again this November. She's had one more in-person meeting in council chambers, but surrounded by plexiglass and in a mask. I just don't know what to say, Rebecca. You certainly are serving in a manner different than any other Troy City Council member in this city's entire history. But Rebecca shouldn't be viewed only through this lens, of course. She is a very, very hard worker, a strong advocate for all in Troy, and strives to do her absolute best in all that she takes on. So Rebecca, please stand up and say hello. I value this council and each of you very much. Even though it is a city election year this year, I want to stress the importance of our council staying nonpartisan, which is mandated by our city charter. I recognize we all have particular partisan leanings at times, sometimes stronger than others, but the residents and the businesses of Troy will be better served the more we keep partisanship out of our campaigns for nonpartisan council seats, and certainly out of our governing ones at the table. It's not easy, and it definitely has only intensified over the past few years, but we have to do everything we can to keep the red and blue out of Troy City government. We are divided enough at the state and federal levels, and we must keep that polarity out of City Hall. Let's be part of the solution and not further the problem. We can do that here by working together and strengthening our relationships instead of tearing them down. Again, I know it's not easy. As I said earlier, I'm one of the two of us that has run in a partisan race, so my political party is no secret. But while my partisan leaning is part of me, I do not let it define me in my role as mayor of Troy. And I know that this council feels just as strongly as I do about this issue and works hard to stay nonpartisan in their roles. In 2018, Mark Miller became city manager of Troy, first on an interim basis, but then officially. And I stand by my decision and my vote to appoint Mark as one of the best things I've done on Troy City Council. Mark was the right candidate for the role then, and we have been so grateful to see how much your team admires you, Mark, and sings your high praises. Thank you, Mark. Please stand up and say hello. One of the first things Mark did was realize he needed a strong assistant city manager, and he found that in Bob Bruner. Bob joined the city manager's office in the wake of a very difficult time in City Hall, and then has acted in his new role more virtually than in person at this point, and he's not ashamed to say it. He's very proud of that fact. We can always count on Bob for a thorough agenda memo and information when we need it, and frankly, that is very refreshing. Bob, please stand up and say hello. I don't know where you are. There you are, back there. One last introduction for now. Lori Grigg-Bloom is our city attorney and has dutifully served in that role for nearly 20 years now. Let me tell you, it's not an easy job, and Lori most definitely handles it with grace. I appreciate Lori's leadership in our city attorney's office and her wise counsel for us all, even when it's something we don't want to hear. I'm an attorney also, and I know how hard it is to tell your client something they don't want to hear. In fact, it's one of the hardest parts about being an attorney. But Lori has a mayor and 6 council members as clients, and city management, and the entire city of Troy. Again, it's not easy, and I certainly don't envy her. But I do appreciate you very much, Lori. So please stand up and say hello. I was elected mayor in November of 2019. 4 months later, our city was shutting down because of COVID-19. 14 of my 18 months as your mayor have been served during a once-in-a-100-year global pandemic. I remember last spring learning that the first Troy resident had passed away from the effects of COVID. It hit hard and made it very real, not just for me, but for our entire community. A year later, my neighbor across the street passed away because of COVID. And I saw firsthand the wreckage it created for his wife of 60 years, his children and his grandchildren, and our entire neighborhood. It was a stark, stark reminder to me of the true toll this disease has had on us all. By now, statistically, each of us knows at least one person who has died as a result of COVID, and we mourn each of their lives and souls. Mayor Pro Tem Brooks and I, along with Cindy Stewart, placed the white flags out in front of City Hall representing each Troy resident life lost to COVID. As we lined them up, one by one, it hit harder and harder how many people we've lost in Troy. Each of them with family, with friends, with relationships. Think of the amount of people each of us come in contact with on a regular basis. Now think about how many people have been affected by each COVID death. It's truly overwhelming. I also just learned just a few minutes ago that a former Troy City Council member, Tom Kazuspy, passed away from COVID this week. Again, it hits hard. We know these people. We know the part of our community that they've been. Please join me in a moment of silence to honor those lives and souls we have lost, and especially to support those that they have left behind. While the vast majority of us have survived the physical threat of COVID, whether we had the disease and recovered, had it but were asymptomatic, or never got it at all, there are other lasting effects on each of us. We've seen businesses and restaurants close here in Troy, and see the office buildings that we have still mostly empty. We've seen our children have school at home and online, or on a limited basis in the classroom. We've had to adapt to a lifestyle that we never expected to have, and frankly, none of us ever wanted. And now, as we are seemingly moving farther along in our reopening and further away from COVID, the truth is we don't know all of the long-term effects of this pandemic, and we likely won't know them for a very long time. We sit here tonight with a lot of unknowns, and I'm sure some fear, and that's okay. It's a natural response to what we've gone through over the past 14 months. And I'd be lying if I didn't admit to feeling the uncertainty that faces us all, especially here in Troy. While I can't control what happens in Washington, D.C., in Lansing, or even Pontiac, I want each and every one of you to know this. Here in the city of Troy, you have a city council that is full of thoughtful, caring, and smart members who each bring a different skill set and valuable asset to the council table for your benefit. You have a city administration and staff who is focused on ways to increase services and provide you with the quality and consistent customer service you deserve and expect. And you have a mayor who is looking out for you and is constantly focused on how and what Troy can do to better help alleviate your fear and help you through this. Because we continue to work together, and because of the relationships we have built and continue to strengthen, I can say without an absolute doubt that the state of our city is strong. The location of tonight's State of the City address is very specific. Flanked by our Troy Public Library on one side and our beloved Troy Police Department on the other, both of which play an important role in our community and an area of focus of this year's budget. Our Golden Corridor, Big Beaver Road, is behind us, and the traffic is flowing again after a once-in-a-generation rebuilding of I-75. If I was up a little higher, I could see the Troy Aquatic Center. Actually, I can't see it. I can see the water slides over there, and which we're thrilled to be opening next week thanks to the very robust community feedback about that issue. Yet we know it is in need of additional funds and definitely a plan for the future. I stand here in the middle of our Civic Center property, amongst some of our most prized and important public assets, on a property that we learned our community values very, very much just a few short years ago, and they want us to keep it primarily for general community use. We've just approved our fiscal year 2021-22 budget for the city of Troy, and I'd like to share some of its highlights with you this evening, all the while sharing with you the power of working together and strengthening relationships here in Troy. The 21-22 budget includes a total budget of $178 million between all funds, with $63 million in the general fund, which accounts for services to residents and businesses. Special revenues funds in the amount of $26.3 million include major and local road maintenance, refuse collection, disposal and recycling activities, and library operations, and capital project funds totaling more than $24.5 million. We recently completed a community survey, and this budget mimics the priorities of our residents as set forth in the survey results, which were confirmed as priorities also by our city council members. Key capital investments mattering most to our community in this budget are $11.8 million for major and local street projects, $2.9 million for the community center roof replacement, and $1.4 million for other city buildings. $1.9 million for park development, including trails and pathways, which we'll talk a little bit about in a bit. $1.4 million for library collection replacement and building renovation, also we'll talk about. $2.3 million for public safety, including $1.3 million for fire apparatus and $1 million for police equipment. We continue to strongly emphasize public safety in the city of Troy. To my left sits our police department, and just behind it, our fire department. Our police and fire departments remain a top priority in our budget, and for our policies we set as a whole. This evening, we are joined by two fantastic chiefs, Police Chief Frank Nastasi and newly appointed Fire Chief Chuck Reerster, who we prefer, or I prefer anyway, to call Chief Chuck. Both of these men run top-notch departments and continue Troy's long history of exceptional police and fire chiefs. I'm also proud to call them both friends and would ask that you give them a proper welcome. Chief Nastasi and Chief Chuck, please stand and say hello. Thank you. This fiscal year, the Troy Police Department will begin the process of integrating body cams, which we know benefit both the public and the police officer. We are fortunate to be able to invest substantially in the top-of-the-line body cams and technology, maximizing our safety and the accountability. We are also making a substantial investment in fire apparatus, which will include a new fire truck and replacement equipment for our absolute envy of the nation volunteer fire department. Our fire department and volunteer firefighters maintain a very high ISO rating and do so much good in our community every single day. Thank you, Troy firefighters, and know that this mayor and this city council always have your back. Funny thing about our Troy firefighters, you never know when they're really here because they're volunteers. They could be dressed in their regular 9-to-5 clothes, so you never know, but I appreciate that. I'm proud to share that our Troy Police Department and its officers consistently receive high marks from our community in conversations with our residents and in our most recent survey. We know that the Troy PD has been involved in community policing for several years and was doing many of the suggested police reforms long before they were proposed on the national level in today's climate. Our Troy Police Department worked with Black Lives Matter protesters last summer and walked with them in 2 peaceful protest marches. They were there supporting the fight against racial injustices and were sincere in both their support of a good cause, but also to protect and serve our community. I know because I was there with them and I experienced it firsthand. Our officers are known for the good work they do in our community, and it's because of them that our city consistently is one of the safest cities in Michigan and the country. Recently, our Troy Police Department received positive media attention for their work during Autism Awareness Month in April, and for their partnership to compassionately combat the opioid epidemic with the Comeback Team. As part of Autism Awareness Month, first responders attended first responder autism training, and our road patrol officers have calming bags available when coming in contact with someone on the spectrum. Along with these bags, citizens were offered vehicle window stickers that can alert approaching officers and responders of an autism occupant. As a result of this initiative, we have had several residents reach out asking for the stickers and calming bags, and just as importantly, giving countless thank yous on behalf of the special needs community. And sadly, the work done to combat the opioid crisis continues to be very relevant here in Troy. Officer Greg Pokley and the Comeback Team have visited 6 residents within the past few weeks who have suffered from an overdose. But the good news is, we are already seeing the positive impact of this new program, as 3 of those residents have agreed to start an addiction recovery program. Public safety matters here in Troy, and it will always be a top priority for us. I won't shy away from celebrating the positive impact our police officers and firefighters have in our community, They deserve our support, both financial and emotional, and I'm proud to offer it. As we shift from public safety to quality of life, to my right is our Troy Public Library, which, if you can believe, opened its original building here back there 50 years ago just this week. This year, we also said goodbye to longtime library director Kathy Russ and welcomed Emily Dumas to our Troy Public Library. But the reality is, Emily has a long history with our library, as her mom used to work here and she was a frequent visitor growing up. We look forward to working with Emily and strengthening our relationship with her as the library embarks on a new chapter. Emily, please stand up and say hello. And I'm excited to say that new chapter for the Troy Public Library begins this fiscal year. In November, Troy voters approved a new 10-year dedicated library millage, which replaced the expiring old millage originally approved in 2011. This millage passed with overwhelming support and will do something that I have long championed: open our library 7 days a week again, finally. But the good news is this millage will do much more than opening that 7th day. It will provide the necessary funding for desperately needed improvements in library infrastructure. Our budget for the upcoming fiscal year includes $1.4 million in renovations and collection replacement. And while I'm not breaking any official news this evening, I understand we are getting ready to finally reopen the doors to our library to our residents in the very new future. I saw a thumbs up from Emily, so take that as good. So that is good news. I'm going to clap for that one. About a mile from here sits the entrance to Phase 1 of our Troy Trails network, which starts at the Daisy Knight Dog Park and works its way through a peaceful and beautiful stretch of undeveloped nature. Further to the north and east is Phase 2 of our Troy Trails, which just officially opened and winds along Sylvan Glen Lake and through the woods. Phase 3 work is beginning in J.C. Park and will include connectors to the nearby neighborhoods to the north. For several years now, our community has shown its full support for trails and pathways in our city, and we are finally making good progress. At the helm of the Troy Trails Initiative is Kurt Bovenseep, our Director of Department of Public Works. Kurt's role as the DPW Director encompasses far more than his role in overseeing the Troy Trails Initiative. And yet when Kurt talks about our trails, you can see the excitement and the passion in his eyes. Except he has sunglasses on now, so you won't see it. It is that passion that has driven Kurt to maintain the natural, beautiful, and beauty of our green spaces and woods, literally designing trails to maneuver around existing trees for minimal disturbance to nature. That attention to the existing trees is only matched by his community engagement of the neighboring residents to the proposed trails, as this process has reinforced the necessity of speaking with the neighbors and working with any concerns they have about adding a trail near their home. Again, Kurt does far more than the Troy Trails Initiative, but now is the perfect time to introduce him, so I'll ask Kurt to stand up, and I also want to say he's got two of his great deputies here, Dennis Trantham and Scott Crothers. So please also Dennis and Scott too. Thank you. So my ultimate goal is a network of trails that allows for maximum usage by our residents and minimum interference and intrusion of privacy in our beautiful neighborhoods. Easier said than done, I realize that. I envision trails throughout our city that connect our city parks, our green spaces, schools, and public facilities. And I'm confident that if we work together and strengthen our community relationships and neighborhoods, we can achieve this goal. Our budget this year contains $1.9 million for our parks and trails. We have over 1,000 acres of parks and green space in our city and several undeveloped city-owned park properties. We know our residents want us to protect green space and invest in our parks. Survey results demonstrate this desire, as have numerous conversations throughout our city. Next month, we are officially breaking ground on a new city park right over here on Town Center Drive. The design allows for further development in the surrounding area, but will be a fully functioning park and community gathering space upon completion later this year. It will also be the new home of the Troy Farmers Market starting next year. I'm excited to be part of the team, as is all of Council, providing the residents of Troy with this new park, and we look forward to seeing you all out there when it opens. As we look to the future, our council needs to work with the city management to create a plan for our parks and green spaces to determine how and where we want to invest. We've recently updated our Parks and Recreation Master Plan, utilizing a great deal of community engagement, and have a solid roadmap to start this planning process. We also can draw on the fine work done by our Green Space Subcommittee, which was formed and did a lot of work a couple of years ago. Over the past year, we've especially seen the value our residents have placed on our outdoor spaces, and we must always ensure those spaces are protected and properly funded. This budget is a step in that direction. While not traditional parks, we are also very fortunate to have two very unique community properties in Troy, our 100-acre Stage Nature Center and our Troy Historic Village. Both of these gems of our community play an important role in this city, and I'm excited to share that we will soon be formally dedicating the Owl House at the Nature Center and the Niles Barnard House at the Historic Village. Two very different houses, but both houses nevertheless. These projects are very exciting and have fascinating stories and a piece of our history. With us this evening from the Nature Center is Executive Director Carla Reeb, and we've also had the Troy Nature Society Board President Dave Lambert, two strong advocates for our community and for our nature preserve. Carla and Dave, please stand up and say hello. And certainly also with this evening is somebody many of you may not know. Jen Peters is our relatively new Executive Director of the Troy Historic Village, and I've had the pleasure of getting to know Jen over the past few months, and I look forward to working with her, further strengthening our relationship, which is very unique, between the city and the village. Jen, please stand up and say hello. There you are. I met her with a mask, so I'm always a little bit like, oh, that's you, that's right, there we go. All of these more traditional quality of life aspects of our city very much depend on our strong business community. While we are living and doing business through extremely historic times, we know that Troy is good for business and that we're poised to come out of the COVID pandemic in a stronger position than our neighbors in the region. You've already met Tara Thompson-Cusack and have heard how strongly I feel about the Troy Chamber of Commerce and our partnership. But I also need to introduce you to someone very near and dear to my heart who holds the distinction of having been with me at more ribbon cuttings over the past several years than anyone else but Cindy Stewart. Sheila Denstadt has been with the Troy Chamber for over a decade, and while most of that time she has worked as the Director of Business Development, she has recently been promoted to Vice President, and I couldn't be happier for her. I couldn't be happier for you, Sheila, or for the Chamber to have you at that new role, and for the city of Troy. Sheila knows our business community and has worked with several mayors and several Troy City Council members, always with a smile on her face and always working hard and for the best interest of the city. Sheila, please stand up and say hello. The Troy Chamber of Commerce is the city's partner, not just this evening, but every day. I have had countless conversations with business owners in Troy who go through great lengths to tell me how much the Troy Chamber means to them. They are advocates, they are partners, and they are another reason businesses want to be in Troy and thrive once they are in Troy. So thank you, Tara, Sheila, and please share the city's gratitude with all of your staff, all of your ambassadors, and all of your board members. I know some of them are here this evening. The city of Troy loves the Troy Chamber of Commerce, so thank you. I've been given a sneak peek of our upcoming economic update from our economic development specialist, Glenn Lapin. If you've ever been in Glenn's office at City Hall, you know he has a Rolodex like no other, and he is another true champion for Troy's business sector. Glenn, please stand up and say hello. According to the data Glenn has received, overall vacancy rates in Troy across all sectors have certainly been impacted by the ongoing pandemic, and there is definitely an upward trend in vacancy rates. With leases in place, vacancies have been somewhat tempered. However, it is expected that the trend of increasing remote working may continue the impact of office vacancies. Although each business is different, it is expected that many may choose a hybrid model of both office and remote work. Shared co-working office spaces, which Troy currently has approximately a dozen facilities, may potentially benefit from the trend of increased remote working. Chamber, you need to push them on that, right? Some companies may eventually seek to reduce their physical footprints as current leases do expire, but it is uncertain to what degree. What I do know for certain is that businesses are still moving into Troy, even during this pandemic. We have seen the addition of employers large and small over the past year and a half, and it is apparent Troy still remains the crown jewel of Oakland County for business. I was just at a ribbon cutting and grand opening on Monday for Somerset Veterinary Hospital, and I heard something I have heard time and time again from business owners. Dr. Bagwell told me that one of the main reasons she was drawn to Troy was because of the zoning and the ease of starting a new business without any unnecessary red tape. She and her business partner looked at locations in Bloomfield Hills and Royal Oak, but neither city offered the smooth process that they had here in Troy. Dr. Bagwell's story is not the first time I have heard of this ease of setting up shop in Troy, and I'm certain it won't be the last. We see other indicators that Troy is the place to be and a business leader in Metro Detroit. Recently, Smart has introduced their new Flex vehicles, which operate like Uber, but far cheaper, and chose Troy as one of its zones. We are joined this evening by Tony Vincent from Smart, and also a Smart Flex vehicle, which is parked back behind you. I urge everyone in Troy to download the Smart Flex app and try out the new and affordable last mile form of transportation. Tony, say hi. Between Glenn's amazing Rolodex and Tara and Sheila's business community relationships, I've been welcomed into the offices, both virtual and physical, of many of the business leaders in Troy, and have forged many of my own fantastic relationships across many sectors. Troy's business success is also in part due to the diversification of its more than 6,000 businesses, which is another reason I'm so confident in Troy's ability to persevere and thrive after COVID, and how I can safely say that the state of our business community is also strong. I've said before that I believe Troy is the heartbeat of Oakland County. It is fitting that County Executive Dave Coulter is also releasing his State of the County address here in a little bit this evening. Shortly after our city address concludes here in Troy, or right about the same time as it concludes. I'll be honest, I'm not known for my brevity. I always say, why say in 10 words what you can say in 25? Or in this case, 25,000, right? I mean, no, okay, it won't be that bad. I say it is fitting because a strong Oakland County makes a strong Troy, and a strong Troy makes a strong Oakland County. I'm going to say that again because it's important. A strong Oakland County makes a strong Troy, and a strong Troy makes a strong Oakland County. I can't mispronounce the name of my own city, right? So it cannot overstate the value and importance of relationship building and working together, not just in our city, but in our county and through the entire region. As such, I commit myself to further strengthening my relationship with County Executive Coulter and Oakland County as a whole, knowing that the city of Troy and its residents and its businesses will all be better and stronger positioned because of that relationship. But we are not without strong relationships already. We have Oakland County representatives here now. We are honored to be joined this evening by County Commissioner Penny Lubes, who is also a friend of mine. County Commissioner Tom Kuhn, hold on, Penny, one more sec. I gotta say some good things about you. County Commissioner Tom Kuhn could not be here this evening, but I do want all of Troy to know what allies both Commissioner Lubes and Commissioner Kuhn have been to us. They've been outstanding partners throughout this pandemic, providing information, county support, and care for our community. Penny, now please stand up and say hello. And as we receive our American Rescue Plan Act funds from the federal government, we will be working closely with Oakland County to make sure we get the most bang for our buck and don't inadvertently overlap in our spending or our goals, recognizing Oakland County has the staff resources to implement many of the programs where Troy does not. Our relationships will allow Troy to smartly and properly utilize those funds in a manner that is responsible, sustainable, and in the manner that was intended by the legislation. We have a current history of working with the county in COVID relief funds. One of the county programs I want to highlight this evening is the Restaurant Relief Program, which the Oakland County Board of Commissioners and the City of Troy is participating in to assist our local restaurants and bars during this pandemic. The program also has further strengthened our relationship with the Troy Chamber of Commerce as we have partnered with the Chamber for implementation. In phase 1 of the program, the county made available to cities, villages, and townships certain types of products and supplies for distribution to restaurants, bars, and cafes. 6 Troy restaurants participated in phase 1, receiving assistance, including Cucina Lab, Gran Castor, Loaded Dice, Lolo Potluck, Seasons 52, and Sedona Tap House. Phase 2 of the Oakland County Restaurant Relief Program was launched in February of this year. Phase 2 provides for additional products and reimbursement of limited costs up to $10,000 incurred by restaurants for the establishment of outdoor dining areas, PPP-related items, and specific business expenses. Up to $230,000 in reimbursement funding was approved by Oakland County for Troy restaurants. The program concludes June 30th, 2021, and there are currently 21 Troy restaurants, bars, and cafes participating in Phase 2. It is estimated these participating restaurants impact 575 jobs. To date, approximately 1/2 of these 21 participants have had their payment requests fully reimbursed, or the payment is in process. The City of Troy is providing overall administrative and financial management for this program, and it is working. 2 weeks ago, we did a ribbon cutting and grand opening for Aldana's Mexican Bar and Grill, which received Phase 2 funds to build their amazing outdoor seating area. It was extremely rewarding to see the gratitude in Maria Aldana's eyes when she was showing us her outdoor seating area and celebrating her successful implementation of the restaurant relief program that was brought to us by Oakland County. Aldana's is a new restaurant located at the corner of Coolidge and Maple. It was new construction and part of a major facelift development project to that corner. We know development in Troy must continue, and we hear time and time again the importance of smart development and compatibility with our neighborhoods. That intersection where Aldana's is located was already commercial development, but deeper in other parts of our city, there are developments proposed for neighborhood nodes, which many of you are likely familiar with. The past few years have seen developers unfortunately pitted against neighbors because of the zoning, the city master plan, and the disagreement between those. This year, we are working to update our master plan and work towards modifying those neighborhood nodes where we can to allow for a better and more peaceful process for both the residential neighbors and the developers. The truth is, we need both residents and developers in our community. Our planning department is led by Community Development Director Brent Savadan, who is with us this evening and I'd like to introduce. He knows the ins and outs of our city zoning and development process like no one else and works extremely hard to bring residents and developers together. Brent, please say hello. Most of the development projects are decided by our planning commission. As mayor, I've been able to appoint 3 new planning commissioners since being elected. Tonight, we are joined by the chairman of the planning commission, Tom Krent, who has served for many years and is doing a fantastic job. Tom, please stand up and say hello. As we move through the master plan update, the community will be actively engaged by design. I look forward to continuing that process, recognizing the high level of importance these development issues have played in our community. As I mentioned earlier, Council just unanimously approved our fiscal year 2021-22 budget. The creation and approval of that budget was nearly a year-long process, full of collaboration between city staff and council. Troy is blessed to have a chief financial officer with extensive experience in both the public and private sector, providing Troy with truly the best of both worlds. Rob Malzik joined us in 2019, and we are so thankful for him. Rob, please stand up and say hello. You know, most cities of our size have a good amount of debt. They have debt for their roads, for their water and sewer systems, and for many other capital projects and needs. Troy, however, does not. We have recently paid off existing city bonds, which leaves us with some important questions as we look to the future. We likely are facing generationally low interest and bond rates, and it could be this will be the best time in the next several decades to issue bonds and invest in our public facilities, our parks, and our city infrastructure. As we come further out of COVID, we must continue to evaluate our budgetary needs, and we will work together on council with city administration, our residents, and our businesses to do what is best for Troy. We have recently seen the fine work of our financial team and city administration with the paying down and refinancing of Downtown Development Authority bonds. Because of a long-standing contractual agreement with Somerset Collection, we received a large lump sum payment totaling over $4 million. That lump sum payment was smartly used to pay down DDA bonds and to refinance that debt. And as a result, our DDA is in the position to reinvest in its district, providing a much-needed refresh and reboot to our Golden Corridor. Requests for qualifications and proposals are now being sent out, and we are excited to see this reinvestment take place. With the new diverging diamond interchange at the Big Beaver exit, we want that gateway to our city to be representative of all that we have to offer and to truly shine as it should. Leading the charge to make our Golden Corridor shine is Alan Kirillick, the chairman of the Troy Downtown Development Authority, and he is with us here this evening. Alan has a long history of service in the city of Troy, and it has often been said that without Alan Kirillick, Troy wouldn't have a DDA. So I'm extremely grateful, Alan, for your continued service and the wealth of knowledge and insight you bring to this city. Alan, please stand up and say hello. The city of Troy has the lowest millage rate in the area and yet provides an exceptionally high amount of services with that rate. We have continually invested in our roads and infrastructure and public safety and have built up an unassigned general fund balance that will protect us in another downturn and allow us the opportunity to be nimble with our budgetary needs. One of the things I'm most proud of is the fact that our legacy costs are extremely well funded. Our retiree pension fund is funded at approximately 150%, and our retiree healthcare fund is now funded at approximately 100%. That puts us in an advantage in our state and protects both the city and the employees who have served for decades in our community. But just because we are so well funded now, it doesn't mean those funds are not always without risk. The wise and responsible course is to recognize that markets can change very quickly, and there is nothing wrong with being so well funded. As an example, a neighboring city once had a retiree fund funded at 130%, but quickly saw it dip to 60%. It happens. My point tonight, however, is not that we need to be anxious by any means. Our retirees and city are in a very, very strong position and safe position. But we do need to be cautious and mindful that markets can change, and we don't ever want to put those funds at risk. Fundamentally, the doubling down on a fiscally responsible and conservative budget approach continues to be the foundation of this community. That's where our city management continues to guide us, and it is the policy this council has supported unanimously. This approach serves to protect and reinforce everything that makes this city strong. Our AAA bond rating, our safety, our ability to attract and retain professionals as the go-to city for the type of public servant talent required for a city like ours, and of course, our thriving business community. Troy's financial position is strong, but we always must continue to be wise stewards. As most of you know, it wasn't that long ago that things looked very different at City Hall. There was corruption, abuse, and an awful divisiveness on City Council. Fortunately for us all, we are in a new era. We know our community has moved past the Brian Kishnick era, and we at City Hall truly have too. But I'd be remiss in not mentioning what we've gone through as a result of that era in the first state of the city since then. We have taken the unprecedented step of investigating ourselves as a city council, and that last Plant Moran report officially closes this chapter with lasting lessons and a roadmap for success. We've recently updated our city council ethics policy and have directed City Attorney Bloom to draft a new ethics ordinance. We have a council that is focused on ethics and good governance. We have a city manager and a team who is focused on the proper balance of power in this council manager form of government. So while it can be easy to talk about the past, it is time to move forward. Always aware of our history, but supremely focused on good government and the future, what the residents and businesses of Troy deserve and desire. Part of moving forward like that is focusing on the amazing community relationships we do have. The relationships we have with our Troy School District, our state and federal elected representatives, and other longstanding pillars of our community. Dr. Rich Macheski, our Troy School District Superintendent, is here, and we at City Hall know that you, your administrators, and your teachers do everything to make us look good and be an attractive place for residents and businesses. So thank you, Rich. Please say hello. We're also blessed to be joined this evening by three absolute giants in our community. Please join me in thanking and welcoming former Mayor Gene Stein, former Mayor Dick Doyle, and former City Manager Frank Gerstenecker. Three of you, please say hello. We are fortunate to have very good working relationships with our federal and state representatives as well. Most of them are unable to be here tonight, but fortunately, State Representative Padma Kupa could make it. She got out of session in time. So Padma, please stand up, say hello. We know you're working hard for the people of Troy and Clawson, and we thank you. And I also wanted to give a special thanks to Congresswoman Haley Stevens, who I believe has sent Cody Schaub, her casework manager, here this evening. State Senator Mallory McMorrow has also, she couldn't make it this evening, but she sends her best, absolutely. She has a new baby, as you know, and it's tough, right? Anyway, we're very thankful of our relationships with our state representatives and our federal representatives as well. So there are two other important members of our city staff in attendance this evening that I'd like to recognize. City Clerk Aileen Dixon is here, and we have all sang her praises over this past year, especially David Hamilton, for her amazing work at conducting two safe and very secure elections, both with record turnout. Aileen has provided one of the greatest examples of pivoting during a pandemic, as well as all of her staff who have supported her so well. Her expertise has served this city and all voters extremely well. Aileen, please stand up and say hello. Vitally important and yet often behind the scenes by design is Jeanette Menig, who is our Human Resources Director. Jeanette has played a key role in the success of our city administration and team of several hundred employees. Jeanette's work is critical to our ability to attract and retain talent, ensuring the professionalism continues here at City Hall. We are very grateful for you, Jeanette. Please stand up and say hello. I have frequently given special thanks to our first and frontline responders. You're familiar with our police and fire departments, but I also want to recognize Vince Warius, who is here and runs Alliance Mobile Health. Thank you, Vince, to you and your team for taking such good care of us and of our residents as well. I understand you're also joined tonight with paramedics Todd Bird, Emily Baker, and Daniel Stearman, who are all Troy residents. So please, thank you. Our faith community in Troy is very important to all of us. We're joined this evening by Ed Chezik from the Troy Interfaith Group and Police Department chaplains Pastor Bob Cornwell and Vince Messina. Thank you, gentlemen, for keeping us all in your prayers. I've discussed some of our boards and committees this evening, and I've made some introductions, but I also wanted to recognize the chair of our Local Development Finance Authority and former longtime member of City Council, Robin Beltramini. Another former City Council member, and now a current judge who had the shortest commute, I think, other than the police department, is Judge Maureen McGinnis from the 52-4 District Court. Maureen, thank you for being, Your Honor, thank you for being here. Many of you have likely had free coffee or hot chocolate and Timbits at one of our city events, or perhaps you've seen donations made to our police department from our local Tim Hortons owners, Maureen Finnegan and John Mara. They are both here this evening, and we are so thankful to you, Maureen and John, for all that you do for our community. Please stand up and let us recognize you. Paul Andoni is also here from Shields. I think Shields is celebrating 75 years this coming up here. Not in Troy, but 75 years overall. That's pretty special. Plus, it's where my election night victory parties are. So, thank you, Paul. Relationships matter, and I'm proud of the work I do as your mayor to build, maintain, and strengthen the relationships in our community. It is a very important part of what I do as your mayor and will always do. Let me tell you, working together and strengthening relationships starts at home. So let me introduce you to my beautiful, smart, and our perfect First Lady of Troy, Bethany Baker. She hates it when I say that. Bethany, I couldn't do any of this without you each and every single day, every minute of every day. You are my #1 partner, and the city of Troy may not always know how instrumental you are in my leadership, but I certainly do. So Bethany, please say hello. You've done it. I love you so much, hon. And of course, with Bethany tonight are our 3 wonderful children who, to some of you who haven't seen us in a year and a half, probably look huge. Yeah. These kids of ours, beautiful prose, Ethan. Our kids have grown up in public service in Troy. We've seen it influence their lives in many positive ways. Watching them grow into responsible, caring, and compassionate people has been one of the biggest joys of our life together. So we're so proud of you, Arden, Canaan, and Avon. Guys, please stand up and say hello. I'm pretty sure all of us have had our share of Zoom meetings this past year, and if you have young kids, and you know how hard it can be and the challenges we faced. I've had to chair over 30 official City of Troy meetings from my home on my computer, and that's quite a process when you have kids. Our kids have had to endure no Wi-Fi at 7:30 p.m. on Monday evenings, no interrupting daddy with signs that are on doors or thinly veiled threats, and it has worked. I'm so proud of my kids. They haven't interrupted any public meeting yet, any media interviews, or anything. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't laugh through council meetings and quickly find my mute button when I heard the shower running above my head, or even better, hearing the toilet flush during an important council agenda item. But for some reason, those toilet flushes mostly came when Bob Bruner was speaking, so I don't know how my kids knew, but they did. I have a little more thanks and gratitude to share. It's hard to believe it has been 14 months since the phrase healthcare heroes has become a regular part of our lexicon. Whether we put light bulbs, blue light bulbs in our outdoor coach lights or porch lights, or supportive healthcare hero signs in our front yards or windows, either professionally printed or hand-drawn, we have come to love and appreciate our healthcare heroes more than ever, and so many of them live right here in Troy. Since the COVID pandemic began, I have ended almost every council meeting thanking our healthcare heroes and acknowledging all they have done for our city to keep us safe during this time of crisis. But tonight, I'm not going to wait until the very, very end. Tonight, we are joined by some of those healthcare heroes from Beaumont Hospital. I'd like to ask Dr. Naveen Prasad, a Troy resident who staffed our COVID units, John Holland, a respiratory therapist supervisor, Debbie Jagow, a nurse manager, and Kathy Hamema and Jack Gerlach, who are both critical care staff nurses who worked in our COVID units. I believe they're also all Troy residents as well. Please stand up, all of you in the audience, and help me thank our Troy healthcare heroes who are with us here this evening tonight. and who are all throughout our city. To our healthcare heroes here tonight and those watching at home, I hope you know how much your community supports you and loves you and thanks you for all that you've done throughout this pandemic. I'd be also missing an opportunity if I didn't share with you some additional special folks we have with us here from this evening from Beaumont. I'm honored to have as my guest from Beaumont Dr. John Lynch, the president, Mark Leonard, the chief operating officer, and Eric Woody, the regional communities affairs manager. The city's relationship with Beaumont was strong long before I was elected mayor, but I can personally speak to how helpful they have been throughout COVID. Eric has sent us regular COVID updates with numbers, curves, graphs, and data. In fact, we got one today where the numbers are looking very, very good. It's nice to see. We watched the numbers rise and fall, and then rise and fall, and then rise and fall one more time. And I always felt confident in the data Eric provided us. More recently, Mark and Eric took time in the middle of a spiking COVID case and deaths to speak with me at length about concerns I was having related to declaring a local state of emergency. They were thorough, straightforward, and willing to take my call, which speaks volumes. Gentlemen, please stand up and let us share our appreciation and gratitude for all that Beaumont has done from an administrative perspective for our community throughout the COVID pandemic, and for what you've done pre-COVID and what you will certainly do post-COVID. We are also very fortunate this evening to have with us Kathy Donovan, who is the CEO of Children's Hospital of Michigan. I had the pleasure of meeting with Kathy a few months ago and instantly felt Kathy wanted to be part of our community. After all, Children's is very close to our Civic Center property back here. She was practically begging for opportunities to work together and to strengthen our relationship. I felt an instant connection with Kathy and knew that with her in charge, Children's Hospital of Troy can and will be a key partner in our city. And since it is already the most colorful building we have in Troy, we know it's bringing a lot of smiles to our children. Kathy, please stand up and let us thank you for all you do for the children of Troy and the healthcare heroes you represent at Children's Hospital. And let me say this, we have healthcare heroes at Beaumont and we have them at Children's, and they're both here tonight being recognized because of what they do for our community. While they may be from different organizations, this is not about competition because Beaumont and Children's work together, and the strength of their relationship keeps Troy's adults and children healthier and safer, and gives us all an extra level of security and comfort. I also want to quickly talk about how the City of Troy's relationships with Beaumont and Children's Hospital have helped our city employees. When the COVID vaccine was first rolling out and our city employees became eligible, there was still a shortage of supply, and it was difficult to get appointments. You know who came through to get our city employees, police and firefighters, and DPW employees vaccinated? Employees who were coming in contact with people on a daily basis as part of their essential work duties and had legitimate safety concerns? It was Beaumont and Children's Hospital. And I will forever be grateful for the way they leapt at the opportunity to help our city. So again, thank you for your partnership and relationship with our city. It's an honor to know you and to know what you have been a huge part of our community, and we hope you always will be. Troy has faced difficulties before. We have weathered many recent storms, the Great Recession, a turbulent and corrupt former city manager, and now we are coming out, hopefully, of a global pandemic. Through every trying time, Troy always comes out stronger and better, and this time will be no different. While we are always cautious and conservative in our approach, the state of our city is without a doubt strong. We are strong because we have built strong relationships between council and city staff, our businesses, our nonprofits, our school district and leaders, and with our county, state, and federal partners. The recipe is easy. The best way to stay strong is to continue to build relationships with each other, strengthen those relationships, and work together for the greater good of our city. In the past year and a half, we have worked very hard on council at City Hall to do this for you. After all, these are your relationships. It's your community leaders, and this is your city. Together, as long as we keep our relationships strong, I promise you, we will keep Troy the best place to live, to work, and to play. Thank you. I appreciate you being here tonight so much. It's really been an honor. Thank you. Good night and God bless.